Hello.
Hello, sir.
Okay, how are you guys doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Okay, perfect. I just saw your assessment scores, and that was, above my expectations. Many of the students were, like average was 70%. So keep it up. And today we are going to start our neurology. So first of all, we'll be starting with neuroanatomy, and believe me, it's going to be like really fun. And we are going to extend the class duration. You should expect that the daily classes would go like 1.5 or 2 hours because we are going to do, discuss each and every concept. And before starting our neuro, let me just give you guys an advice. If you guys know the anatomy, so believe me, everything is so easy, right? So I'll be discussing anatomy like along with their physiologies, with different structures, what's their function. We'll be discussing UWorld MCQs. And in neurology, I have decided that right after the session, I'll be taking we'll be discussing UWorld questions on Discord. I'll be also there, so I'll be your host there in the Discord as well, right? For the upcoming sessions on UWorld, right? Okay, so let's start our lecture or today's lecture. Okay, just give me a second. So today we are going to discuss tracks, right? Like the main topic of our discussion are going to be our tracks, but along with that, we are also going to discuss some general terminologies which you are going to see in our neuro section. So it's very important to know that, right? Okay, so let me just share my screen. Uh, can you guys just see my screen? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Hello?
sir.
Okay, perfect. So today we are going to discuss neuroanatomy, right? We are going to discuss it in the really detail, like we'll be discussing each and every structure of our central nervous system, and we'll be going into your brain. Okay, so just like be ready for that, right? Before discussing our nervous system, there are some general terms which will keep on coming in front of you. So first of all, let's discuss that. So can you guys just tell me what's the functional unit of your central nervous system? What's the function unit of your central nervous system called?
Neurons.
Neuro.
Neurons, perfect.
Neuro.
Neuron.
So neurons are the functional unit of your central nervous system. Like all of the main function which your central nervous system is going to carry, the main unit is neuron, right? Then we have our glial cells. Do anyone know what are glial cells?
Yes, they are cells in the brain.
Okay, perfect. So they are basically supporting cells of your nervous system. Like simply, they supports your neurons, right? In terms of different aspects. We'll be discussing that in details. But till now, you should know that glial cells are your supporting cells of your central nervous system. Is that clear? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. We'll be discussing a term which is known as gray matter. Gray matter and white matter, right? So what is
Yes.
basically gray matter? Simply, we know the structure of neuron. Neuron have a cell body, and neuron have axon as well, right? So this information basically comes comes to axons. You have your dendrites as well. So this cell body of your neurons, basically whenever they are present inside your central nervous system, the collection of cell bodies, they are simply like they appear gray, so we have named it as gray matter. Is that clear? The gross appearance is gray, so let's just name it as gray matter. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. While the axons which carry information into your central nervous system, they appear as white due to the myelin sheath, right? You know that they have a myelin sheath, every axon. So that's why it appear white in color. So that's why we are going to, if we have collection of axons, it appears white. So can I just call it as white matter?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So white matter basically are collection of axons, right? Gray matter are further divided into two classifications, right? If the gray matter is present on the surface of your central nervous system, right? So you have your CNS, your brain, let's suppose, right? So let's suppose this is your brain stem. So the surface of brain basically also have gray matter. What is gray matter? We already know that. collection of cell bodies. So on the surface of cortex, those gray matter, we are going to call it as cortex, right? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but we also have these collection of cell bodies. They are like, like deep in your central nervous system. And once the cell bodies or the gray matter are present deep in your central nervous system, we are going to call it as nucleus. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes.
Repeat the last 2 points.
Okay. So we were discussing gray matter. Gray matter is basically collection of your neuron cell bodies, right? So gray matter, it appear gray, that's why we have named it as gray matter, while the collection of axons present in your central nervous system appear white, that's why we are just calling it as white matter, right? But gray matter further have two types of classification. If the gray matter is present like on the surface of your central nervous system, you are going to name it as cortex, right? So cortex of your brain have gray matter. What is gray matter? Collection of neurons, cell bodies. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
If these collection of cell bodies are like ingrained inside your central nervous system, they are present deep in the central nervous system, their name changes. We are going to call it as nuclei.
Yes, sir.
Is that clear? Okay, now you guys are going to tell me, if we have collection of gray matter outside central of nervous system, what would be the name of that? They are
Cortex.
same
The
things
cortex. Gray matter.
outside the central nervous system.
Ganglia.
Ganglion.
Ganglia,
Okay.
perfect. We are going to call it as ganglia, right? Or ganglions. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Is that clear? So these are same things. They are collection of your neuron cell bodies, but when the location of these cell bodies are changing, their name changes. If they are present deep, we are going to call it as nucleus. If they are present superficially, we are going to call it as cortex. But within the central nervous system, if these group of cell bodies are present outside the central nervous system, we are going to call it as ganglions. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now let's discuss white matter. White matter further is, okay, what is white matter? We already know that they are collection of your axons,
Axons.
right? Okay, so we also have classification of white matter as well. For example, those axons which are just moving in the central nervous system up or down. For example, okay, what's the main goal of central nervous system? For example, the senses are taken by your receptor, they come into central nervous system, they'll just move upward to your brain. Your brain is going to compare it with the past experiences, and it would just generate a motor response then, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
The motor response, okay, let me just tell you again. For example, if I just slap someone, right? So what happens? The receptors are going to change this mechanical energy into electrical energy, because what are receptor? We'll be discussing that. Receptors are also known as transducer. What are transducer? They changes one form of energy into other form of energy, right? So if I'm just slapping someone, it's a mechanical energy. It would be changed into electrical energy. It would just come to your central nervous system. It would just move upward to your brain. And based on the past experiences of our brain, your brain already know when someone slaps you, what are you going to do? You are going to slap them back, right? So it's
Yes.
going to compare it with past experiences, and once they have decided that I'm going to
Yes.
slap this person again, so motor response will just come down. It would stimulate your muscles of your hand, and you're going to slap back.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that clear? So you guys can see the information which is going up or going down, up or down. This information is carried by your axons, group of axons or white matter. Can I say that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Whenever the axons are taking information up or down into your central nervous system, we are going to call them as tracts. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So white bundles which take information cephalically or caudally or upward or downward, they are simply known as tract. So we have ascending tracts, as we discussed. The slap information was going, it was ascending up to your brain. And we have descending tract, the motor tract. Motor response is going to come from the brain once it's compared with the past experiences. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
doctor. ascending track. What you said about ascending track? What was another name
Sorry.
for the ascending track? Can you just repeat, please?
Okay, so we discussed that. For example, I just gave you an example. If someone just slaps you, what
Yeah.
happens? These receptors are going to change the energy into electrical energy. Okay, these electrical impulses are going to go into your brain. It's going to compare it, right? So it's ascending upward.
Yes.
It's ascending upward to your brain. So these tracks which are ascending upward, what would be their name? Their name would be ascending tracks.
Okay.
We are further going to classify each ascending track. Don't worry about that. These are some general terminologies which I am discussing. Ascending tracks. And once your brain decide to slap back, it would come through descending track, which is going to initiate a motor response. Can I say that?
Yes. Yes.
Descending track. Okay, so it's a descending track. And what's the what's the function of descending track? They are motor in nature. Can I say that?
Yes.
While ascending are sensory in nature, right? Can I say that?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect, right? So, okay, what about, for example, if I need information to go from right side of my brain to left side of my brain, or from the left to right side, they also require axons, a group of white matters, right? They also require white matter bundles.
Yes.
Right, if I'm just, for example, you guys already know we have connection between right and left hemisphere in our brain, right? Even in the spinal cord we will be discussing, we have connection of right side with left side, right?
Yes.
So it means that axons, we also have axons which communicates right side of your body or right side of the central nervous system with left side. What are going to be the name of these tracks which are communicating right side with left side?
Commissures.
Perfect.
Interneurons.
Perfect. Commercial fibers, right? Commercial fibers.
So
Okay,
these are also
Dr. Margaret, I think there is some noise in someone's mic. I don't know. Can you guys please fix that? Okay, thank you. So we have commercial fibers. What are commercial fibers? They basically link or they connect right side to left side. Even in the brain, we know a big commissure, corpus callosum. Do you guys remember that? What is corpus callosum? It connects right hemisphere to left hemisphere, right?
yes, sir.
So can I say that corpus callosum is a big commissure or big commissural fibers?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Right? Okay. So
These
what about,
commercial fibers are also axons.
they are also axons, they are wide bundles, they connect one side, right side to left side. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
There are the ascending and descending tracks white matter?
All of them are axons. They are white matters. They are a group of axons. They are a bundle of axons. They are white matter, right? We are discussing classification of white matter. Is that clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Then we also have some axons, some group of axons which connect anterior side to posterior side, or posterior to anterior, or anterior to posterior. What do we name them? Those white bundles which connect posterior or anterior aspects of your brain or spinal cord. What would be the name of that?
Mhm.
Association fibers. Association fibers. You are going to name it as, whenever you see the term association fiber, think that these group or these bundle of white matters are connecting anterior aspect of your central nervous system to posterior aspect. Is that clear? Association fibers.
Yes.
Is that clear? Okay. That was all about classification. Okay. So let's discuss different tracks, right? So we discussed what are tracks. They basically are a group of axons, or they are a bundle of axon. Either they would move up or either they would move down. We already know that, right? In your central nervous system. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, what about nerves? Yes. When are we going to call axons nerves?
Peripheral nervous system, maybe.
Perfect. They are peripheral nerves or peripheral nervous system. So tracts were a bundle of axons which are present within the CNS, right? But what about the bundle of axons or white matter which are present outside central nervous system? We are going to name it as nerves. Is that clear? Or peripheral nerves? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And one of the differentiating features of tracts and nerve is that tracts are myelinated by oligodendrocytes. Is that clear? Oligodendrocytes.
Yes, sir.
And nerves are myelinated by Schwann cells. Is that clear? Hello? Are you
Tracts,
guys?
Yes, sir.
Are you,
tracts for what? Oligo?
oligodendrocytes, oligodendrocyte tracts, right? Tracts or bundle of axons which are present in your central nervous system are myelinated by oligodendrocytes, or bundle of axons which are present outside your central nervous system are lined by, or they are like myelinated by Schwann cells. Is that clear?
Okay, clear.
What's the other feature of oligodendrocytes? Oligodendrocytes, like a single oligodendrocyte, can myelinate multiple axons, right? But a single Schwann cell can myelinate only single axon. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here is a question for you guys. We have certain demyelinating diseases, right? If you guys remember, we have multiple sclerosis and we have Guillain-Barré syndrome, right?
Yes.
Guillain-Barré syndrome is basically demyelination of your peripheral nervous system or Schwann cells, while multiple sclerosis is demyelinating disease of your oligodendrocyte. In other words, I can say that multiple sclerosis is going to cause demyelination of your axons which are present within your central nervous system. On the other hand, Guillain-Barré is a demyelinating disease. It's going to cause problems with demyelination which are present outside your central nervous system. Can I say that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here is a question for you guys. Okay, so what's the name of cranial nerve 2? What do we call it?
Optic nerve.
Okay, it's optic. Okay, who answers that? Dr. Eukaria, right?
No.
Okay,
It's
cranial
sir.
nerve 2 is optic nerve, right?
It's me. Oh, yes.
Okay, Dr. Kenana. So, for example, if you have demyelinating disorder of optic, it's a nerve, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It means that Guillain-Barré is going to affect that.
Yeah, but but the reality is multiple sclerosis is what affect the optic nerve.
Okay, so if it's nerve, we already discussed that nerves are lined by Schwann cells, and Guillain-Barré disease is basically demyelinating disease of nerves. So, am I right or wrong, Dr. Kenana?
You're right.
Optic nerve acts like a part of the central nervous system.
Yes.
These are central nerves, cranial nerve.
It's the only nerve that is considered as a central nerve.
Okay, just answer my question. If we are suspecting a demyelinating disease of optic nerve, would it be Guillain-Barré or multiple sclerosis?
Multiple sclerosis.
But the nerves are basically, like Guillain-Barré is for nerves. Who said multiple sclerosis?
I did.
I did too.
I
Don't call it as optic nerve. Simply call it as optic tract, right? It's a tract. It's not a nerve because it's lined by. It's a tract because it's lined by oligodendrocyte, right? So if we have multiple sclerosis, it would just, cause demyelination of your optic tract. Just call, okay, it's named nerve. We don't know who named it nerve, right? But it's lined by oligodendrocyte. It's like in reality, it's a tract, right?
Yes.
yes.
Is that clear?
Yes,
So
sir.
Guillain-Barré won't cause demyelination of optic nerve or tract, right? So you should know that. Why do we call it as tract? Because we know tract are lined by oligodendrocytes. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have, okay, we discussed we have ascending tracks, right? We discussed we have
Dr. Ahmed, I have a
ascend. Yes, please.
So when we are talking about the optic tract, meaning the myelination of the tract.
Okay. Actually, optic, we call it as optic nerve, right? Everyone call it as optic nerve. But if you are just following, the exact definition of nerve or tracts, in reality, it's a tract because it's lined by oligodendrocytes, right? Oligodendrocyte. The myelination of optic nerve is done by oligodendrocyte, these big oligodendrocyte, right? Not Schwann cells. We discuss, the idea here is that we were discussing that nerves are lined by Schwann cells. But actually the optic nerve isn't a true nerve. It's basically a tract. It's have, like nature same as that of tract because it's lined by oligodendrocyte. Is that clear?
Yeah, and I have a question, doctor.
Yes, please.
I just a little bit confused. Like optic tract is gonna come from the vesical cortex to optical chiasm. Yes, chiasm.
Okay.
And then after gonna start optic nerve. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be discussing the entire pathway of your optic nerve or tract, right? So don't worry about that. We'll be discussing each and every pathway in our ophthalmology section, right? For now, just don't confuse yourself. But the take-home point is that optic nerve is lined by or myelinated by oligodendrocytes, right? So multiple sclerosis, if you have multiple sclerosis, which basically attacks or your oligodendrocytes. So in MS, we are also going to see some visual symptoms and signs. Is that clear? We'll be discussing the details. Once we are just discussing the pathology, we'll be diving deep into multiple sclerosis. What are the causes? How is it going to affect your optic tract and optic nerve, right? Don't worry about that. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we discussed that we have ascending tract. For the ascending tract, we already discussed that they are basically sensory in nature, right? Like it would just take the sensory information from your receptor, it will just bring it to your brain, and your brain is going to compare that sensory information with the past experiences. Then it will generate a motor response, and through descending or motor tract, it will stimulate the group of muscles or initiate a motor response. Is that clear? So let's discuss ascending tracts in a little bit more detail, right? So before discussing ascending tracts, let's discuss receptors. We discuss receptors, right? So what are receptors? As I already told you, receptors are also known as transducers, right? Transducers. What do we mean by transducer? Basically, it's the receptors have intrinsic property of changing one form of energy into other form of energy, right? Like for example, let's suppose if we have a chemical injury through certain acids, it can be converted into electrochemical energy, and in that way it's going to move into move through your nerves into your central nervous system, right? So basically the idea is that receptor changes one form of energy into other form of energy, right? As I just gave you an example of a physical or a mechanical energy, right? It was converted into electrochemical. So in the end, it's going to convert different kind of energy into electrochemical energies. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So what would happen then that you have two, okay, let me just draw the picture of your spinal cord, right? So this is your spinal cord, you already know, right? So we have a butterfly, right? In the middle. That's a gray matter, right? Butterfly is gray, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And we have a dorsal column, it's dorsal, it's present, dorsally. We have lateral columns, right?
Yes.
And we have anterior column, right? So if the butterfly is gray in gross appearance, so we already discussed that it means it would be having a lot of cell bodies. Can I say that?
Yes.
If the lateral column, the dorsal column, and anterior are white in nature, they are white matter, so it means it will be having a lot of axon bundles, right?
Yes.
Even the tracts are also bundle of axons, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for example, once the receptor bring information, okay, so basically this butterfly is divided into two. You guys can see you have your dorsal horns and you have your ventral horns, right? These are like they resemble the horns, right? So let's call it as horns, simple. So we have dorsal horns and ventral horns. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Remember, the dorsal horns are sensory in nature. Like all of the sensory information which is coming in to your spinal cord, we already know that all of this sensory information from the receptors are first of all going to come to spinal cord, right? So it would come through your dorsal horn, right here. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So if through the peripheral nerves the information is coming here, first of all, if it's sensory, it would obviously come in dorsal horn. Then it can either move through the dorsal column and just move up to your brain. It can either move to the lateral side and it can go up and move to the brain. Can you just please fix your mic, Dr. Shafiq? Hello? Okay. So either it can just come to the anterior column and it can move upward, right? Because we already know that all of them are white matter, so it means the axons will be moving up and down here. You are going to see tracks, either ascending or descending. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So once they move up to the brain and once the brain have initiated a motor response, right? Once the brain have compared the information with the past informations and it generates a motor response, what happens? That motor track is going to come down. It would be called a descending track. We discussed that, right?
Yes.
Descending is motor in nature. So the cell bodies are going to be present in the ventral horn, right? So is that clear? So all of the descending tracks are going to synapse on the cell bodies present in the ventral horn, and then your motor neurons or your motor nerves are going to innervate the muscles and initiate a response. So can I say that the dorsal horn is purely sensory in nature? Because all of the senses are going to come, they are going to relay in the dorsal column as dorsal column is gray in nature. So the cell bodies of the sensory neurons would be present in the dorsal horn. Can I say that?
Yes.
Okay, while the motor neurons are going to be present at the ventral horn. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So let's write down some notes, right? So we discussed we have our ventral horns and we have our dorsal horns. Ventral horns are, yes, motor or sensory?
Motor.
Motor.
Also,
Motor. Or in other words, I can say that the cell bodies of motor neurons are present in the ventral horns. That's simple. Can I say that?
Yes.
They're gray matter. They have cell bodies. Cell bodies of what? Cell bodies of motor neurons. While the dorsal are sensory in nature, or in other words, the cell bodies of your sensory neurons are present in the dorsal horn. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's discuss tracks, the specific tracks. Okay, we discussed we have our dorsal column, we have lateral column, and we have anterior. They are white in nature. It means we have tracks present inside them, right? Inside the dorsal, we are going to have dorsal column, something like that tracks. We are going to have lateral tracks in the lateral portion of your spinal cord, and in anterior along, we are going to have tracks, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So remember that the sensory tracks or the ascending tracks which are moving up, they are also like present in the dorsal. We have like ascending tracks present in the dorsal column. We have ascending tracks present in the lateral column, right?
Yes.
Hello?
yes.
Okay. And the motor tracks, they are also present in the lateral column. We are going to discuss that, right? So let's discuss the dorsal. Dorsal is pure sensory in nature. Can I say that the dorsal column, we're only going to have sensory ascending tracks, while in the lateral column, it's both sensory plus motor, because the motor like tracks or the descending tracks which are coming down, they come down in the lateral column. Is that clear?
Yes.
No, sir.
While we have some ascending tracks for pain and temperature, we'll be discussing that. They're also present in the lateral column. So I have simply like said that dorsal column is pure sensory in nature, while the lateral column is sensory plus motor in nature. Why? Because you have both descending and ascending tracks in the lateral column, while the dorsal column only have ascending tracks. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Are you guys just following me?
Yes, sir. We're
Okay.
here.
Okay, so let's discuss dorsal column tracks. We know that they are purely sensory tracks, right? So it means that information is going to come and it's going to be taken back into your central nervous system, right? While the anterior lateral or the lateral are mixed, right? They both have motor tracks or descending and ascending tracks, right? So for the dorsal column, remember, this dorsal column tracks, like you can simply consider the tracks as, like smooth pathways or roads, right? Is that
Yes.
right? So remember, like, because like simply you can say that the electrochemical energy can be, considered as cars. So these cars are going to move through these tracks and again upward to the central nervous system, right? So you can just consider the tracks as roads and the electrochemical energy or the potential as cars, right? So remember, the dorsal column tracks are like very modified tracks. They're very modern tracks, or they are modern rods, right? They are smooth rods. Why? Because they are highly myelinated. You already know that if the degree of myelination increase, it means the velocity of impulse increase, right? Or in other words, if the quality of roads are good, so the cars can travel or faster, right? Can I say that?
Yes.
So as they are modern rods, they are good rods, the cars can move fast. They are highly myelinated. It means that the velocity of the electrochemical impulse is going to be very high. Can I say that?
Yes, doc.
Yes. If they are modern in nature, it means that you won't allow, you would only allow modern cars to, move through this road, right? You won't allow a truck. Is that clear? So it means that the sensations which are going to be carried through these tracks are going to be modern sensations, right?
Yes.
Are you guys just getting me? Modified, modern, those sensations which come later in your life, not primitive one, right? Or those cars, like it means like a Lamborghini is going allowed to, like move through these roads. We do not want a big truck to move here and destroy the road. Simple, right? So what are your modern sensations? Fine touch. Fine touch. It's a modern sensation, right? Fine touch. You have your specialized sensation, proprioception. Proprioception, right? That's a modern sensation. 2-point discrimination. How to discriminate between 2 points? Why am I calling it as modern sensation? Because back in your primitive life, back like once our ancestor were cavemen, right? So they had primitive sensations, right? And the primitive sensations are pain and temperature, because pain and temperature, like they're primitive. You need them to survive. But if you still do not have these sensations, you can still survive, right? Hello?
Yes.
Like
Yes,
if you cannot sense fine touch, you can survive. If you cannot sense proprioception, you can survive. If you cannot discriminate between 2 points, you can still survive, right? So they are modern sensation which comes with evolution. While the primitive sensation are pain and temperature. If you cannot sense pain, you cannot survive. If you cannot sense temperature, again, you cannot survive. Is that clear? What do I mean by modern sensations?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
And
Yes,
crude
doc.
touch was also an important factor, right? For your primitive ancestors. So, dorsal column medial lemniscus system, we will be discussing that. Why do we call it as dorsal column medial lemniscus? It means that they're like, they're a modified track. They are modern roads. It means modern sensation have to pass through them. You need fine touch, proprioception, and 2-point discrimination, which are your modern sensations, right? That they evolved with time. Only they are allowed to move through these modern or highly myelinated pathways. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, clear, doc.
Okay, perfect. So let's
I have a
discuss.
question, doctor.
Yes, please.
So you talked about the dorsal horn. So in the sensation that you just mentioned, you said the modern one are fine touch, 2-point, and then proprioception. Is it on the same track that?
Sorry.
Is it on the same track that we find the primitive sensation?
No, for the primitive sensation, we have different rods. We have old rods we have rods with less myelination. They are anterior lateral column. Here,
Okay. All right.
these rods are for your primitive sensation, old sensation, like for your trucks, right? And these are for your modern cars. Is that clear now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, that's perfect. So let's discuss dorsal column in a little bit more detail, right? Let's discuss the track. I'm mentioning you guys again and again. If you guys know the anatomy, each and every pathology is going to be very clear. The physiology, like it's the essence of that neuroanatomy. You should just focus on the neuroanatomy portion. That's why we are just like diving deep into the explanation. Okay, so let's discuss dorsal column in a little bit more detail, right? Okay, so for example, let's suppose this is my spinal cord, right? So what happens that, okay, let me just draw it down here, right? So let me draw your spinal cord. You have your different levels of spinal cord. Just give me some time because I have to, draw, okay. Okay, so we discussed that inside our spinal cord, we have our butterfly, right? And we already know the butterfly, the dorsal horn, the anterior horn, we know their function, each and everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this was your dorsal column. So remember that the modern sensations which we discuss, like, okay, what were your modern sensation? Anyone who can just please tell me?
Pressure, fine touch, proprioception.
Fine touch, proprioception, 2-point discrimination, vibration, right?
Yes.
Vibration.
Okay, perfect. So from the lower legs, all of these sensations, they are going to come. First of all, where are they going to come? Their sensation, anterior horn or posterior horn?
Dorsal horn,
Dorsal horn. Perfect. Perfect. As they are modern sensation, then they are going to jump back into the dorsal column, right?
Yes.
And they'll be start moving upward, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, Doc.
For example, again here from your lower leg sensations are coming. They're going to go there. Okay, so you guys can see that they're present medially, right? If you just compare this dorsal column, they'll be more medial, right? Okay. For example, if I need these modern sensations from the hand, so they would just come like that here to the dorsal column, and they would be present laterally, and they'll just move upward towards the brain. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So for example, if I just take this dorsal column, for example, this is the dorsal column, magnified picture, right? So can I say that in the medial aspect of the dorsal column, we are going to have tracts which are bringing these motor sensation from your legs, while laterally we are going to have tracts which are bringing modern sensations from your arms. Can I say that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you have a UL MCQ on that. For example, if we have a lesion, let's suppose, and it's affecting the medial portion of the dorsal column, so sensations are going to be lost in the leg or the hand.
Legs.
Legs.
Perfect. That is your UL MCQ, right? That's so simple. You guys should just keep it in mind. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Ahmed,
Remember,
can you repeat that,
Can you
please?
repeat which is coming?
okay. So as you guys know that the tracks are going to come like that. First of all, they are going to synapse here at the posterior dorsal column. Then they are going to move to the dorsal column, but medially, right? And as we are just moving upward, the fibers from the upper extremities are going to be present laterally, right? So if you just take this picture and zoom it in, right? So on the medial aspect here, in the medial aspect of your dorsal column, you'll be having fibers from the leg, which are bringing modern sensation from your leg. While if you just examine the fibers laterally, you'll be having fibers which are bringing these modern sensations from your upper extremities or hand. Is that clear?
Yes, Doc.
Yes.
If you have lesion medially, it means that the modern sensation in your legs are going to be lost. If you have lesions laterally, it means that the modern sensation of your upper extremities or arms are going to be lost. Is that clear?
Yes, Doc. Clear.
Hello?
It's clear. It's perfect.
Excuse me, doctor. Lateral for the upper extremity and the medial for the lower. Yeah.
Yes, but in the dorsal column, because the story is opposite in the lateral column. Remember, for the dorsal column, medially for the lower, laterally for the upper, not for the lateral column. In the lateral column, we will be discussing the story is opposite. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, doc.
Okay, perfect. But we discussed that once these fibers are coming, they'll be just coming in a form of bundles, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the fibers which are just carrying like these modern sensation from your legs, they are going to be called as, yes, fasciculus gracilis. And how to remember that? Legs are graceful. Simply, you can just note down this mnemonic. Legs are graceful, right? So fasciculus gracilis for the sensation or for the tracts or the group of axon bundles which are just bringing your modern sensation from the lower extremities are going to be called as fasciculus gracilis, right? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. While these bundles which are just bringing like these modern sensation from your upper extremities are going to be called as fasciculus cuneatus, right? What does the term fasciculus mean? Whenever you have a bunch of axons and it resembles a cylindrical kind of wire, it's a cylindrical kind of bundle, right? It resembles wires are cylindrical in nature, right?
Yes, sir.
So whenever we have a bundle of axons which are cylindrically arranged, they are called as fasciculus. Cylindrical arrangement, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what would happen next that these, okay, so these were the first order neurons, right? What would happen next that these information are going to be, given to certain nucleuses. These nucleuses are present in the medulla, right? So you guys know that after you have your medulla, you have your pons, your midbrain, and your cerebrum, right? So what happens that in the lower medulla you have nucleuses, right?
Yes.
Okay, so information from the fasciculus gracilis are going to be given to, okay, these are nucleuses. What are nucleuses? Nucleuses are again cell bodies of neurons, right? You already know that gray matter.
Yes.
Hello? Okay,
Yes.
so what the gracilis are going to do, they are going to synapse here on these nucleus, which are known as nucleus gracilis, right?
Yes.
Nucleus gracilis. So the fasciculus gracilis are going to synapse and give information further to the second order neuron, the cell body, which is known as nucleus gracilis. While the information from the fasciculus cuneatus, they are going to be given to certain nucleuses, which are known as, yes, nucleus cuneatus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What would happen next that once the information is given to these nucleuses in the lower medulla, they would decassate. You know that like the right-sided fibers are going to move towards left, while the left are going to move towards right. Is that clear? And then they will start moving upward. Are you guys just getting me?
Yes.
Okay. So for example, if we have lesion below the decassation, or if we have lesion below the medulla, so all of the sensation would be lost on the same side or ipsilateral side. Can I say that?
Yes.
If we have lesion above the medulla or above the decassation, so all of the sensation would be lost on the opposite or contralateral side. Can I say that?
Correct.
Yes.
So you have a lot of U-word MCQ on that, like a bunch of U-word MCQ. For that, you guys should know the anatomy. Simple, right? Okay. So now what happens that these fibers are going to move upward, but now these fibers won't be moving as a cylindrical kind of, like the cylindrical was known as fasciculus, right? Whenever we have a group of axons bundle, they are moving in a form of cylindrical wire. We are going to call it as fasciculus. But as the decassation occurs, now these fibers will be moving in a form of lemniscus. What is lemniscus? lemniscus is a kind of flattened wire, right? It isn't a spherical wire. Flattened, you guys might have seen flattened kind of wires, right?
Yes.
So, like whenever we have flattened wires, we're going to name it as lemniscus. The name for flattened wire in the neuroanatomy is lemniscus. But now the fibers would be moving in a form of lemniscus, not fasciculus. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And these fibers would be moving medially throughout your medulla, pons, and midbrain. So let me just call it as medial lemniscus. Can I say that? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. These fibers would just move upward. That would just relay in thalamus. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, in the
All
VP.
of this information, okay, all of this information is going to relay in the thalamus, because we know that thalamus is the main sensory relay center, right?
Yes.
Like most of the sensation without olfaction, right, comes to the thalamus, right? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, from the thalamus, what happens? It would just move up where to the sensory cortex. We'll be discussing what is sensory cortex. We have a central gyrus, like at the back of central gyrus, we have sensory area. We'll be discussing that. Don't worry about that, right? So it would just relay in a nucleus which is known as ventroposterolateral nucleus. We'll be discussing what is ventroposterolateral nucleus, right? In a really detail. Don't worry about that. What happened then? It would then move through a okay. What have I drawn? What's this? Internal capsule, right?
Yes.
Okay, what is internal capsule? All of the fibers which are moving through these small areas are in a form of compacted way, right? And it just form internal capsule. So internal capsule have two limbs, posterior limb and anterior limb. Like it have two legs, posterior leg and anterior leg, right? And a genu. So these fibers would move through the posterior limb, and then it would just go to the sensory cortex, where your brain can compare it with the past experiences and then generate a motor response. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes, Doc. Yeah, just the decussation part. Can you just repeat
Okay,
it?
I'll just repeat it. Okay. So we discussed we have medial lemniscus and there runs in dorsal. So let me just name this tract as dorsal column medial lemniscus system. Can I call it dorsal column medial lemniscus? Can I call it?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Before the decussation, they were present in the dorsal column. After the decussation, they were moving upward as a lemniscus. So I have named it as dorsal column medial lemniscus.
Yes.
Is that clear?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. Okay. So doctor asked that what is okay. So okay, let me just repeat this whole track. Modern sensations from the legs are going to come into the dorsal horn. They are going to jump into your dorsal column, moving medially as a fasciculus. I'm going to name it as fasciculus gracilis. Modern sensations from your upper arm are going to come into the posterior horn. They are going to jump into the dorsal column, but little bit laterally. Then they are going to move as a fasciculus. So let me name it as fasciculus cuneatus. Is that clear? In the lower medulla, you have second order neurons. Second order neurons. That will just take all of the information from, okay, the nucleus gracilis is going to take information from fasciculus gracilis. The nucleus cuneatus are going to take information from fasciculus cuneatus. They are going to cross it over. They are going to decussate it. The right fibers are going to move towards left side. The left are going to move towards right side. Then they will start moving upward. Is that clear?
Yes, now clear.
And this
Thank you.
decussation is also, these fibers of decussation are also known as internal arcuate fibers. Is that clear?
Yes,
Then they
Doc.
will just move upward. They'll just relay in the thalamus. In the thalamus, third order neurons start. They'll just give all of the information to the third order neuron. Third order neuron would then move to the posterior limb of your internal capsule and to your sensory cortex. That was your dorsal column medial lemniscus. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
Doc.
sir.
Okay. So let's discuss. Okay, so a lot of students are confused that what is ventral, postero, lateral. It is ventral, it is posterior, or it is lateral. You know, like this name is a kind of confusing name, ventral, postero, lateral. Have you guys ever think of the name? If it's ventral, so how can it be posterior, right? So for that, you guys should know the yes. For that, you guys should know anatomy of thalamus, right? So you have thalamus. Remember, in the thalamus, you have a Y kind of structure. You have Y in between. Okay, it would be better if you guys can just draw this diagram along with me in the lecture, so it will be quite helpful for you guys because you are going to see a lot of MCQs based on this anatomy, right? A lot of pathology is based on this anatomy as well. Okay, so we have thalamus, right? So thalamus have Y. Okay, it's a Y structure. Y structure, again, they are white matters, remember, right? And inside these white matter, again, we have nucleuses as well, which are known as intralamellar nucleus. We'll be discussing that in our thalamus module. Don't worry about it, right? But thalamus has structure Y. So this is going to be the anterior. Okay, for example, if this is your, let's suppose if this is a human, right? So thalamus is basically placed like that. Is that clear? Hello?
Okay, Doc, yes.
So this is the ventral part or anterior part, right? Anterior thalamus, anterior. Anterior portion, this is going to be the medial portion of the thalamus and this is going to be the lateral portion.
Yes.
Is that good? Remember, the lateral portion again is divided into ventral and dorsal. So you have a column which is known as ventral column and you have a column which is known as dorsal column. Is that clear?
Okay, yes.
Okay. Let me just repeat it again. We have anterior portion, we have medial portion, and we have lateral portion of your thalamus. Lateral portion again is divided into ventral and dorsal portion, right? So this is going to be the ventral portion of the lateral thalamus. Ventral portion of the lateral thalamus. Can I say that? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, Doc.
And so the dorsal portion of the lateral thalamus. Okay, again, this ventral portion is again divided into three parts: the anterior part, the intermediate part, and the posterior part. The anterior part, the intermediate part, and the posterior part. Is that clear?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, again, this posterior part is divided into medial part, and lateral part. Right? So ventro-posterolateral nucleus is present here in this part. You guys can see it's ventro, postero, and lateral. Is that clear now?
Yeah.
No.
You guys don't have to, like memorize the entire anatomy, but at least you guys should have an idea, ventro-posterolateral nucleus, because you are going to see ventro-posterolateral nucleus again and again. So this nucleus is present somewhere here. That's why we are just calling it as ventro-posterolateral nucleus. Is that clear?
This direction start after the nucleus, yeah?
Sorry?
After this come receiving the signal until to nucleus and start the bone, in the bone.
Okay, can you just repeat your question? I didn't get you.
Okay, this structure of the spinal cord is the end in this level and start in the bone and above.
Okay, so all of the information as we discussed are going to come through the dorsal column, medial laminar cell system. They are going to relay in the thalamus, in the ventro-posterolateral. If you guys know the ventro-posterolateral, that's more than enough. But it was only for the purposes that you guys.
Can you just repeat quickly the division from the thalamus?
Sorry?
Can you just quickly repeat the thalamus division? I think.
So we divided thalamus into anterior portion, into the medial portion, and into the lateral portion. Lateral portion was furtherly divided into ventral and posterior portion. But the ventral portion of the lateral thalamus was further divided into three portions: the anterior, the intermediate, and the posterior. The posterior was further divided into the medial and the lateral portion. So you have a nucleus somewhere here, which is known as ventro-posterolateral nucleus. All of the sensory information are going to come there. They are going to relay. The third order neurons are going to start from there. Is that clear now?
Got it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was all about your dorsal column medial lemniscal system. I hope so you guys are now well aware of the track. So let's discuss our next ascending track, that is anterior lateral column. Right? So we discussed the dorsal column. Let's discuss this lateral and anterior column ascending track. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, before discussing that, let's have 5 minutes of break.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What happened? I think you guys are so drained off.
It's very difficult, sir.
Yes.
It's difficult.
Yes, sir. Neuroanatomy is really difficult.
It isn't difficult. You have to revise it again and again. And like in the first aid, like it's very confusing for you students to do directly from the first aid, because in the first aid they have directly drawn the tracks. They have named the medial lemniscus, and I think if we aren't diving deep into the concept, so I think then it's difficult.
Yes, sir. You're right.
Okay, don't be worried. See you after 5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Sir?
Hello.
Yes, so for like, I know before the other task you said to sometimes do pathoma or med school boot camp for things we don't understand. What do you suggest for neurology, neuroanatomy?
So for the neuroanatomy, like first aid is like I would say more than enough, and at least you should just write down notes of the lectures, and I'll be just sharing these notes as well. We're going to have revision, but the tracks portion is a little bit confusing, so don't worry about that. We're going to do a lot of revisions, and right after the session, I'll be just giving you like 1 hour of break, and I'll be just hosting the UWorld session. So we'll just discuss each and everything there again, right? So in the UWorld, you won't see like such a lot of like details. You aren't supposed to know what is lemniscus, what is fasciculus, but at least you should know the anatomy, because like many of the questions, if you know like the explanations, if you guys can only retain like 10 to 20% of the lectures here, so you will be easily able to answer each and every question on your UWorld, right? That's the main idea.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Hello, are you guys here? Let's start our next track.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
worry, we are going to have a revision session in the end. Everything is going to be so easy. Don't worry, everyone would be knowing each and everything. Don't worry about that. So the next track which we were discussing is for pain and temperature. We already discussed that pain and temperature are your primitive sensation. One thing which you guys can do is you just please take a pen and paper, and whatever track I'm drawing, just please write down some notes. So it would be quite helpful for you guys. Okay. So for the pain and temperature, we discussed these are primitive sensations, right?
Yes.
Hello? And the tracks or the rods for primitive sensation are present in the lateral column, right? You already know that. In the lateral column here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So remember that pain and temperature are brought by the receptors, but normally your free nerve endings just take the pain stimulus, right? So free nerve endings basically takes the pain stimulus and bring it into your spinal cord. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be just studying the classification. Don't worry about that classification of your receptors and all of these things. Don't worry about that. But let's discuss this track in a little bit detail, right? So, okay. So for example, if these are different level of your spinal cord, right? We have gray matter, we have the butterfly, right? We have the butterfly. Are you guys just following me?
Yes.
Okay. So from the lower extremities, the pain and temperature are basically, like brought by your thermal receptor and free nerve endings. First of all, they are going to go into the dorsal horn, right?
Yes.
We already discussed that. Remember?
It's sensory.
Okay, because dorsal is sensory. But remember, we discussed that in the dorsal column, the fibers were directly, jumping into dorsal column and moving. But the fibers of pain and temperature, they are going to, relay, and they're going to, the second order neuron is going to be present there within the dorsal horn. Like they're going to give all of the information to the second order neuron. If you guys remember, second order neuron in dorsal column, medial meniscus was your nucleus fasciculus and nucleus cuneatus, right? But here the story is different. It's going to take all of the information, and the second order neuron is present within the dorsal horn. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Once the information is laid here, what happens? This second order neuron, it's going to travel. It's going to, travel like that. Okay, it's your anterior commissure, right? Because these fibers, these white matter are connecting right side of spinal cord with left side, right? Like for example, this is your, okay, this is the white matter, right? So
yes.
This part of white matter is basically connecting the right side to left side, right? So these fibers are your anterior, these are commissural fibers, right? We discussed when the white matter is connecting right side to left side. So they are basically known as commissural fibers. We discussed that, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the second order neuron is going to come here. It's going to move through the anterior commissure and go into the lateral column. Is that clear? So the decussation here you guys can see is at the level of your spinal cord. Can I say that?
Yes.
But no, that's not true. These fibers are going to move one or two segments above, and then they are going to move in the lateral column, right? So they do not cross at the level of spinal cord. First of all, they are going to move one or two segments above in the spinal cord, right? So for example, if the sensory fibers are coming, they are going to relay, the second order neuron is going to move one or two segments above. It's going to pass through the anterior commissure and give fibers to your lateral column. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
What's the significance of that? Because we will be okay. They are decasseting one. Can I say that the fibers of pain and temperature are decasseting one or two segments above the spinal cord, moving into the lateral column? Can I say that?
Yes.
We have a syndrome that is known as Brown-Sequard syndrome, right? What happens? We have a hemisection. So whenever we have a hemisection, can I say that the pain and temperature would be lost one or two segments below contralaterally? Can I say that?
Correct.
If I just cut half of the segment, right? So these fibers are going to be cut. So can I say that the pain and temperature are going to be lost contralaterally on the opposite side, one or two segments below? Can I say that?
Yes, you can.
Yes, let me just tell you again. We have pain and temperature that are coming to the dorsal horn. The second order neuron is going to move one or two segments above in the anterior commissure. Here you guys can see it would just cross, it would just move to the lateral column. If I just cut half of your spinal cord, which is known as hemisection or Brown-Sequard syndrome, right? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, what about dorsal column sensations? Can I say that the dorsal column sensation will be lost ipsilaterally at the side?
Yes, correct.
Yes, perfect, right? So they're going to move one or two segments above, and the story then is so simple. They'll be moving upward. Again, they're going to relay. Okay, let me just draw it here, right? Okay, let me just erase all of the these things.
Doctor, I have a question. Do
Yes,
they decassate before they move the columns up, or they decassate as they move up?
Okay, as they are decasseting, they'll first move upward and keep on decasseting. Simple.
Okay.
Right? Or simply they will decassate and move upward. The idea is same, but what should you keep in mind? You have a UWorld MCQ on that Brown-Sequard syndrome. I would say you have 5 to 10 MCQs in UWorld. The concept is that pain and temperature would be lost one or two segments below on contralateral side, because we know we have decassation almost at the level of spinal cord, right? Not somewhere up in your brain. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just draw the butterfly. Okay. Sorry for my drawing, by the way. Okay. So pain and temperature comes here. They give it to second order neuron. Second order neuron moves one or two segments above, moves laterally like that, right? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, as I'm just moving up, what happens again? It would just come, and it would just move like that. One or two segments above, it would move like that. From the upper extremity, again, it would just come. Here, it would just move one or two segments above and move in the lateral aspect. Can I say that?
Yes.
Yes.
If I just take the lateral column and zoom in, now the story is opposite. Remember, now at the medial aspect, you are seeing fibers from upper extremities, right?
Yes.
And in the lateral aspect, you are seeing fibers from lower extremities, right?
Yes.
Here you guys can see the black. The black is laterally. They are from lower extremities, right? Pain and temperature from the lower extremities. While these medial fibers are bringing pain and temperature from upper extremities. Hello?
Yes.
So if we have lesion in the lateral column and it's affecting, the lateral side, what do you think? Pain and temperature would be lost in the lower extremities or upper extremities?
Lower extremity.
Lower extremity.
Lower extremities. You have a UWorld MCQ on that. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Can you please repeat?
Okay, let me repeat it.
Dr. Ahmed, quick
Yes, please.
concern. So for the dorsal column, so we have no contralateral or no crossing hours. So that's why they were going, the lower extremity was going from the medially and upper was lateral, right?
Yes. So in the dorsal column, we have decassation at the level of medulla. In the lower medulla, if we have Brown Sequard syndrome, it happens in the spinal cord that is below the medulla, right?
Yes.
If there you zoom in the dorsal column, you will be having the medial fibers would be from the lower extremity, while the lateral fibers would be from upper extremities. But if you zoom in the picture of the lateral column, you will be seeing medially you will be having fibers from the upper extremities, which is bringing pain and temperature, while laterally you will be having fibers from the lower extremities. That's all. Is that clear? Just write it down.
Yes.
It's very high yield. You're going to have a lot of MCQs on that.
Yes, it's because of the deposition occurs before the medulla. That's why, right?
Yes. Right. It's very confusing.
It's confusing. Don't worry. I'm going to revise it, each and everything. You won't go without memorizing it. Don't worry about that, right? Okay. So, okay. So, for example, this was your butterfly, right? Dr. Abdul Rauf, don't worry. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What happens that pain and temperature would just come here, right? It would just give it to the second order neuron. Second order neuron is going to move 1 or 2 segments above, and the lateral column, it would just move upward to the brain, right? From the upper extremities, again, it's going to come here. It's going to lay on the second order neuron. It's going to move 1 or 2 segments. It's going to pass through the anterior commissure, and it would just move a little bit medially. It's medially, right? If you're just zooming in the picture, these are medial fibers, right?
Yes, sir.
So medial
Yes.
fibers for the upper extremities, right? And lateral for the lower extremities. Is
Yes.
that clear?
Yes.
Okay, again, what happens once these fibers are just coming upward into the brain, as they have already decassated 1 or 2 segments above, they will just, again, the story is same. They will just go into ventroposterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. In the posterior limb, again, they would just move to the sensory area. That's all. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Dr.
Okay.
Ahmed, another question.
Yes, please.
So for the pain and temperature, so this is coming from the spinal thalamic or corticospinal thalamic tract?
Okay, this tract is basically known as, okay, this is basically known as anterior spinothalamic tract, right? Or lateral spinothalamic tract. It's your lateral spinothalamic tract. Okay. Then you have your, okay, just give me a second. This was your lateral spinothalamic, right? Why do we name it as spinothalamic? The idea is very simple. It's moving from spine into the thalamus, but in the lateral portion. So that's why we name it as lateral spinothalamic. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we have anterior column as well. Anterior is again white matter. So the crude touch basically comes from the anterior, right? So you don't have to know the anterior column in a detail, because you won't see any MCQ. But what happens that all of these tracts are also going to join the same lateral spinothalamic, and combine. They'll just combine with one another, and then they'll just relay into ventral posterolateral nucleus and back into the sensory cortex. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's revise these tracks. Let's revise these tracks. So we have dorsal column, medial lemniscus tract, right? So we already discussed that we have our spinal cord, we have gray matter, butterfly, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we have dorsal horn and we have ventral horn. As they are gray in nature, it means you'll be having cell bodies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Dorsal is sensory in nature. It means all of the sensations which are coming, first of all, they are going to relay, they are going to come into dorsal column. Then they'll be just moving to the respective white matter columns. Is that clear?
Yeah.
We have our ventral column, the motor responses which are coming from the brain. They'll just synapse on the ventral horn, and all of the motor, you are going to have nucleus which are for the motor actions or motor purposes. Is that clear?
Yes, doctor.
So dorsal column, medial lemniscus. We discussed that this column is purely sensory in nature. You have ascending tracts here. Is that clear? And that tract is known as dorsal column, medial lemniscal tract. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the dorsal column, we discussed that modern sensations are going to be moving in the dorsal column. Which modern sensations? Proprioception.
2 points discrimination, vibration,
And fine touch.
fine
And
touch.
proprioception.
Okay. Okay. Now we discussed that, for example, if you have different level of the spinal cord, 1, 2, and 3. Dr. Abdul Rauf, it's for you. Are you just listening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have gray matter. Right. So from the lower legs, all of these modern sensations, they are going to come where? To the, first of all, to the posterior horn, right?
Yes, sir.
The fine touch, 2 points discrimination. Then they are going to jump into the dorsal column, right? But medially, they'll be just moving upward like that. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll be moving upward in a form of fasciculus gracilis.
Yes, sir.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The sensation from your upper extremities against, okay, these modern sensation, they'll just come, they'll just relay in the posterior or the dorsal horn, they'll just jump into the dorsal column, and they'll start moving upward, right?
So is it a single neuron, right, doctor?
Sorry?
It's is it
Yes, it's a
enough?
first order neuron. It's a first order neuron. It's a first order neuron, right?
Okay.
Right? So what happens? They'll be again moving in a form of fasciculus. We are going to name it as fasciculus cuneatus. Is that clear?
Yes. Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Then what happens? Then it would just relay into the nucleuses which are present in your lower medulla, right? And
Yes.
these nucleuses are basically second order neurons. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
The fasciculus gracilis is going to synapse into nucleus gracilis. The fasciculus cuneatus is they're going to synapse on nucleus cuneatus. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes.
doc.
They'll just decassate. Right?
Yes, sir.
They'll start moving upward as a lemniscus, a flattened kind of, like wires, right?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that clear? Lemniscus. What would happen? They'll just move into ventroposterolateral nucleus of the thalamus and to the sensory cortex. That was all about dorsal column. If you zoom in the picture, the medial fibers are from the legs, while
Yeah.
the lateral fibers are from
The upper limbs.
upper extremities, right?
Upper extremities, yes.
So can I say that if you have a lesion which is affecting the lateral portion of the dorsal column, so upper extremities, the modern sensation of upper extremities are going to be absent. Can I say that?
Yes.
If you have a lesion which is affecting the medial portion of the dorsal column, it means that the modern sensation of legs are gone.
Yes.
Can I say that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me draw it again, right? So fibers are coming here. You have a dorsal column, right? They're going to come here. They're going to move like that. Nucleus gracilis, fasciculus, and cuneatus. They're going to decassate. They're going to move upward. Ventroposterolateral, posterior limb of internal capsule, and into somatosensory cortex. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So what's difficult, Dr. Abdul Rauf?
Yes, sir. Now I get it.
Can you just please revise it, Dr. Abdul Rauf? Then we are going to move forward.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
So, sir, the modern sensations, they travel through the dorsal column tracts,
Okay.
like the touch, proprioception, 2-point discrimination, and vibration. And the sensations basically start coming, which are coming through the legs and like the lower extremities. These are the first order neurons that basically move medially, which we name as the fasciculus gracilis.
Perfect.
So first they move into the posterior cord and then they move laterally. And then the sensations from the upper extremities, they basically enter laterally and they're called as the fasciculus cuneatus.
Okay.
and after that they have to synapse like at the second order neuron. So
Where? In the lower medulla, right?
in the lower medulla. Yes, sir.
What's the nucleus of these second order neuron called? Those who are synapsing with gracilis, that's nucleus gracilis. Those who are synapsing with the fasciculus cuneatus, they're named as nucleus cuneatus. Simple. That would
Yes.
decassate.
Yes,
Right?
and then it would
After the decassation, it would just move upward, relay in the ventroposterolateral nucleus to the posterior limb. It will move to your brain. Simple.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
What about for pain and temperature? Again, you have different levels. You have your butterfly,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay. Pain and temperature, they are going to come. Second order neuron is going to be started in your posterior horn. There is an area in the posterior horn which is known as substantia genitinosa, right? There you have second order neuron. What these second order neuron would do, they would just move 1 or 2 segments above, and they will move lateral in the lateral column, right? Again, sensations are going to come here. They are going to synapse on second order neuron. They are going to move 1 or 2 segments above. In the lateral portion, they are going to move upward, right? So here you guys can see the fibers. From the now, if you just zoom in the picture, and the lateral aspect of your lateral column, in the lateral aspect, you are going to see fibers from the lower extremities, while in the medial side, you are going to see fibers from the upper extremities. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first
which
of all,
one is that first order neuron over here?
okay, this is your first order neuron, and this is your second order neuron. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Like your first. Hello?
Yes, sir. These are the primitive sensations, sir. These are basically.
Yes, primitive sensation, pain and temperature.
Yes, so they are in the interior column.
Sorry?
These are the part of the interior column. They are moving.
No, they are the part of your lateral column. Anterior column bring your crude touch.
Yes, sir.
The story is same, right, for the anterior, right? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
They'll just move upward. They will again relay in ventroposterolateral nucleus, and to the posterior limb, it will move through to the somatosensory cortex. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you just please revise it?
Yes, sir. So the primitive sensations like pain and temperature, they basically enter at the posterior horn and at the second order neurons. From them, they basically pass from anterior portion to the lateral portion.
Okay.
And before doing that, they travel 1 or 2 levels above in the spinal cord.
Okay.
And after that, they pass above in the ventroposterolateral nucleus and the posterior limb of internal capsule.
Yes, that was so simple. Why were you so worried?
Sir, because I thought I did not get it.
Yes, you can get it. Don't get panic, right?
Yes.
That's a simple one.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's discuss our next topic, that is pain reduction, right? Pain reduction. You have a U-Word MCQ on that, and that's why I'm just discussing it in a little bit detail, right? So normally, for example, if I'm in the gym, right? So what happens that if I'm just lifting a lot of weights, I do not experience the pain. But once I am in home, all of the pain appears, and I'm saying that why weren't I experiencing pain there, right? So actually, inside your central nervous system, you have a mechanism that is known as analgesics, right? Like for example, if you're just fighting with someone and someone just hit your nose, at that time you won't know that my nose is break or it's bleeding. But right after some time you will experience pain. It means that you have some mechanism of analgesics in your central nervous system. Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
Like you got like a morphine kind of system which is ingrained intrinsically in my brain. It hits whenever we have a high sympathetic activities. That's why I'm not experiencing the pain at that time. Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
So let's discuss that pain reduction. Okay. Remember that we'll be discussing the structure of our brain. We are going to discuss different structure. For example, ventricles. Like for example, if you have cerebral hemisphere, you have ventricles, or they're basically hollow spaces. There's basically a complete entire module, we'll be discussing that, but I'm just giving a brief overview, right? So in the cerebral hemisphere, you have hollow spaces which are known as lateral ventricles, right? These lateral ventricles join another ventricle. These ventricles are simply hollow spaces, right? Which are known as which is known as third ventricle, right? The third ventricle basically come down through cerebral aqueduct in your midbrain, and then you have your fourth ventricle. We'll be discussing it in detail, right? So you have hollow spaces within your brain which are known as ventricles. You should only know that. Is that clear? Hollow spaces within the brain which are known as ventricles. What's the function of these hollow spaces? They make CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. We'll be discussing that. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes, doc.
Sir.
Okay. So surrounding or in the periphery of these ventricles, you have gray matter, right? You have gray matter or nucleuses. Like surrounding the third ventricle, you have some gray matters or nucleuses. Surrounding the aqueduct, you have some nucleuses and some other kind of big nucleuses. So let me just name these nucleus which are surrounding the ventricles. Let me just name it as periventricular nucleus. Can I name them as periventricular nucleus?
Yes.
Or periventricular gray matter? Both of them are same. Okay, those nucleus which are surrounding your aqueduct, let me just name it as periaqueductal gray matter. And you also have a big kind of nucleuses which are known as nucleus raphi or nucleus raphi. Is that clear?
Yes.
So we already, I already just made a story. For example, if you are in a gym, it means we have an analgesic system. So basically these nucleuses, dump off your morphine-like substances whenever you are in your sympathetic mode. They dump off morphine-like substances. Morphine is basically a pain reliever, right?
Yes, sir.
Pain reliever, right? Like they are known as enkephalins, right? Enkephalins. They make enkephalins, and these enkephalins are, like they would just, stop bringing your pain impulses, right? For example, on the second order neuron, if they are synapsing there, they'll just dump off your enkephalins or morphines, and due to that, you cannot experience any pain. Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the nucleus raphi is going to dump off serotonin, right? Serotonin is a happy hormone, right?
Yes, sir.
Serotonin can also relieve pain. If I'm just dumping serotonin here on your second order neuron, it means the pain again would be stopped. The threshold is decreased. So this is basically your like analgesic system which is ingrained inside your brain, and you have nucleus raphi which make serotonin. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And serotonin can decrease pain.
Excuse me, would you please repeat it again? I couldn't get it.
Okay, so we discuss, we have a mechanism of analgesia. What is analgesia? Relieving pain is known as analgesia. Analgesics. We take analgesics to relieve pain, right? Inside your brain, you have, like a proper system, a proper nucleuses which are dumping off morphine-like substances. Whenever we are in a sympathetic mode, for example, if I am lifting a lot of weights, at that time I'm not experiencing pain. Why? Because at that time, this system of analgesics or analgesia is activated, right? So basically you have certain nucleuses which are present in periphery of your ventricles. They are simply called as periventricular gray matter or nucleuses. Nucleuses which are surrounding your aqueduct, they are named as periaqueductal gray matter. And big nucleuses present in your brainstem which are known as nucleus raphi, right? Which are dumping of serotonin. All of these morphines and serotonin, they'll just come in the second order neuron which we discussed, and they will just stop bringing pain impulses to your brain, and in this way you can achieve analgesia. Is that clear?
Yes, clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you have a UWorld MCQ. Serotonin comes from nucleus raphi. That's all. Is that clear?
Yes,
sir.
clear.
Okay, so I think it was all for today. We just spent a lot of time, but tomorrow just get prepared that we'll be having 2 hours of session, right? So you guys can have 1 hour of break. I'll be sharing the schedule and we'll be discussing UWorld MCQ in the Discord, right? So you have 1 hour of your break, and right after that, you guys will be joining the Discord server. I'll be there. I'll be discussing some MCQs with you people, right?
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You know, like the neuroanatomy is a big system, so we are going to spend a lot of time. Just be like prepared for that. Thank you so much. Hope so you guys
Sir,
enjoyed this.
Dr.
Thank you,
Ahmad,
Dr.
I
Ahmed.
have one question.
So yes.
Yeah, could you please start within half an hour, because in India it's already now 11:30. It's 1 hour. It's gonna be late.
Okay, so I'll just I'll just try my best. Don't worry.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll start in half an hour.
Thanks, doctor.
Okay.